Okay.
Welcome, everybody. If you want to sit down or if you haven't signed in, you can please sign in. Let me know when it's time to go, Yvonne. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Village of Ruidoso regular meeting. It's August the 12th. It's 1 o'clock. And if you will stand with me for a moment of silence, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and a salute to the New Mexico flag. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right. And I'm sure everybody got the flash warning. Warning. What was it? Warning watch.
Warning, I believe.
Anyway, so they'll make sure we're in the know about all this. So we'll start off with a roll call, please, ma'am.
Mayor Crawford.
Here.
Councilor Eby.
Here.
Councilor Letterman. Here. Councilor Salas.
Here.
Councilor Hooker.
Here.
Councilor Corey.
Here.
Councilor Jackson is absent.
Okay. And if I could get a motion to approve today's agenda and giving the chair the ability to move the agenda around, please.
Mayor, I move to approve the agenda with giving you the liberty to move items as desired.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Salas.
Aye.
Councilor Hooker.
Aye.
Councilor Eby.
Aye.
Councilor Letterman.
Aye.
Councilor Corey.
Aye. Okay, well, I want to go ahead and move to public input. So we have the public input sign-up sheet here. First person up, and we're going to read. Do you have this, or you want me to read it?
I can read it.
Oh, you go ahead and read it. We'll let Councilor Hooker read it.
I will. So this is in reference to public input. If you've signed up to give input, these are the rules and regulations that have been established by the governing body that will pertain to your presentation. A, presenters shall be either a resident, property owner, or business owner in the Village of Ruidoso. B, presenters shall be required to sign in prior to the start of the meeting on the public input sign-in sheet provided at the podium and shall provide the required information, name, physical address, telephone number, and/or topic of discussion. C, presenters will be recognized in the order listed on the public input sign-in sheet as time allows, with the agenda items having priority over non-agenda items. D, presenter must state their name. E, presenter must state in 1 or 2 sentences what the presenter will be addressing before council. F, presenters must keep the comments relevant to the business at hand and shall not make personal, rude, or slanderous remarks regarding any member of the public or village officers and staff, and shall not become boisterous or disruptive while addressing the council. The governing body or staff shall not comment or engage in discussion during the public input period. G, presenters shall keep the comments brief and limited to 5 minutes. H, timing measurement shall be used to be distributed equitably for all presenters. Mayor Pro Tem Salas will be the one keeping the time, and he will give you warnings as to how much time you have left.
2-minute warning.
There you go. I, if any of the above guidelines are violated, the presenter will be declared out of order and will immediately cease continued comment. And finally, J, presenters may only be allowed to speak once. If follow-up comments need to be made, it can only be done at council's discretion. Presenters violating the provisions of Section F will be requested to leave the meeting and may be barred from the presiding officer from further audience before the council for a period of 6 months. Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll go ahead and get started because we don't really ever have that, but it's been told that we need to reread it. And I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading the last name. Dean Bobinger? Bobinger. Okay, I almost got her. And, yeah, sit here and make sure the mic turn it on to green.
This is my first time here, so
well, welcome.
Bear with me.
You
Thank
bet.
very much.
Absolutely. And then just state your name in there again so we have it for the record.
Sure. Dean Bobinger, Boebinger. I live in White Mountain Meadows, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with mayor, council members, and village manager. The issue at hand is utility bill dealing with water during the evacuation. And before I say that, I just want to thank you all for all the hard work that you put in during this period of fire and flooding. My family's been in Ruidoso in the Hondo Valley for about a century now, either full-time or part-time. So I really feel what's happened, and the first responders back there and fire people, I really appreciate you too. The issue at hand is a water leakage. My drip system was draining during the evacuation, so mandatory evacuation was on Monday, I believe it was June 16th, which I did evacuate. On June 17th, I found out through going through the website and through a bill that I had a utility bill of $999. Of that, $780 approximately was due to water. My usual bill's around $30 to $40 for water. So I did appeal this. I do have, by the way, the app that works well typically that says that you're using too much water. Of course, with cell and internet service out, I did not get any warning at all. And of course, I was away. It was not only until a neighbor of mine a few days later, who happened to still be in the neighborhood, I was away, saw water dripping down the street. So she happened to go to High Point somewhere in Ruidoso to get me on the phone. So anyway, I told her how to turn it off. So it was turned off on Thursday. So 3 days worth of water usage. I do have documentation of when that water was used. You can't probably see it, but there's huge spikes during the days I outlined, the 17th through, I think it's the 19th. This is a closer screenshot. So again, I came and presented the second time, came to the office. The front people at the desk, very nice. They were very helpful. I asked to speak with the supervisor, somebody about it in person. That person was not available, did not want to talk to me, so that's why I'm here today, to point that out. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had a problem. I'm blessed, my house is still there. I have not been flooded out. I've been flooded out in Houston before. I know what that's like. But given the circumstances, the app was off, forced evacuation. Obviously, these were days during when I was evacuated. I'd like to have a credit. I did pay this. I'm on auto pay, so it's been paid in full for whatever the normal usage is and the $780 approximately that in excess that I was billed for water. So I appreciate your support for that. And if there's any other residents who's had the same issue, I mean, it's really not their fault. You know, they were evacuated and didn't know what was happening with the app not working. So that's, I guess, my case. Again, it's been paid. I would appreciate the appropriate person that it goes to. I don't know if it goes to village manager or at this point, if there's a process. I'd like to know what that is, either in writing or follow-up to this meeting. So thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Deborah Butts. You might get out of here before it rains too hard. Looks like it may be too late.
That's okay.
State your name.
Deborah Marquez Butts. I live in 113 Pippin Street in Ruidoso, and I'm a community resident for over 20 years. So I'm coming to the council just to acknowledge the fact that we have a great, strong community, and I've actually had volunteered when we had the McBride fires with the schools being involved. So I have recognized how strong our community has helped each other. Being in conversation with the Red Cross, they were able to leave because we have such a strong community with the water and all that. So I'm very pleased to be here. I am from California, where we do have fires too, but our community is very strong. However, I've noticed in my work, we have elderly that are being neglected and being looked at on a perspective, I guess you would say, that they're homeowners. They don't want to go to another place or live with their kids if they are older and have a different location. So my job is prospectively to help them stay as long as they can, and if they want to, they'll be in their home. I have had the privilege of working with those that have had lost family members, and their decency of understanding that's what they wanted. So I'm blessed to be a part of that. However, we have homes that have been affected, and some of them are not able to come back just yet. So my point in all this is that we're advocating for that an assurance of understanding that there are resources in our community, but not everybody is aware of that. So I'm trying to build an awareness, and what I did before, as the mayor knows and has come, to the Ruidoso Community Center in October is when I would like to present something for the community, aside from all the other things that are happening, support groups. I think they have one at NMU, and there's another one, I think, with the collective of the churches. I don't know all these things, but I'm willing to work just alongside with all that, just to bring in awareness of it doesn't take much. A neighbor, knock on the door. Hey, my older client or patient, talking too fast. You got my 2 minutes. So having the awareness of the elderly in their own neighborhood. They haven't seen them for a while. It doesn't take much to go knock on their door or even contact their family members by phone if they have that. Just making that kind of be a checklist is what I'm bringing up. I want to be an awareness, awaken our community to help with those simple ways. Nothing very predominant, just coming alongside with other support. So that's kind of where I'm at. I do have contact with the state, New Mexicare, which is a program other than Medicare that will help individuals with elder care that want to stay in their home. And this is a funding, a budget, a $5 million grant that I am aware of through the deputy director for APS. And so I have all that information. I've been working with them, but I haven't seen it really effective in our community, and I'm on it. I'm working alongside with them. I get contacts, texting messages, emails, but because of the fires, I couldn't fulfill a lot of the obligations. Now, I guess they just texted me, there's 12 classes, now there's only 6. So it is available. But it's not a moneymaker. It's not like you go get money and help these people. It's limited. So I'm wanting to build that awareness. So
Okay,
that's it.
thank you.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm going to leave because I got to go.
You bet. Andrea Fernandez?
Thank you, Mayor. Andrea Fernandez, Ruidoso resident. So I'll speak a little bit about what I'm grateful for, talk a little bit about some values, and then talk about just some current events. And so I'm in gratitude for that our water is drinkable all over the town, and I hope everybody is now informed that we can start drinking and bathing, and there shouldn't be a problem. I'm grateful that Country Club and Hull is connected. It's hard with all these detours, so it's nice to see us moving forward with that. And I'm just grateful for the continued hard work of the village and seeing the progress. Thank you. So I see this as a time to really look at values and our opportunity to grow our culture in what we want to see. So things like cooperation, tolerance, efficiency, minimalism, frugal, self-sufficiency. These are practices that we get to incorporate in our lives, and as a village and a governing body, reducing waste and being frugal is important. So I just want to offer some suggestions because I know the budget is on everybody's mind. And so things as simple as double-sided copies, using the front and the back times, 40 could be reduced trash. Reduce waste, turning off computers and lights when not in use. I know it's easy when somebody else is paying the bill, and people do it in their own homes, but it's costly, and it, just like the water running, it adds up. And so how can our departments become more efficient, more careful, including vehicle use, group your errands, not, everybody driving all over on the taxpayer dollar, which is, we're going to see, is going to decrease. So, that's their raise, maybe, is one way to look at it. Another thing is reducing the purchasing of single-use items, and that would be coffee cups, paper plates, water bottles. And I know the water bottles have been free, but there are unseen costs to water bottles. And I'm just going to come up here every meeting and encourage us to do better, because the water is safe to drink. And if we want a higher standard, we can do water coolers, we can do other options. There's just so much progress in this environmental situation that we shouldn't still be where we're at. So thank you. I'd also like to see if the village could track the cost of paper products, single-use products. I think that's something the community might want to know. And if it's costly, then we can do something about it. If it's reasonable, then that's that. So I wanted to talk briefly about the ICIP meeting, which I attended. I would request an extension. I feel that the fire happened on the first one, and there was no documentation or information for the public to preview before the meeting, so people came unprepared. Again, it's comprehensive year. If we could slow down, work on some of those details that are gonna make the rest of the 10 years, the rebuild, better. So I would like to put a little bit of that discussion before even turning in the ICIP. What I did learn in the I would like to meet with Ron. We were supposed to meet before all the disasters, but so I would like to schedule an appointment with you if we can talk about some of these details. But what I did learn is that $1 million FEMA bridge really costs $1 million, and some people were advocating at the ICIP meeting, maybe we could choose a couple of our projects that would, we can fund ourselves instead of going through all, so that we can just, still be waiting how many years later since 2008 for that bridge. So what can we do? That's the self-sufficiency part. Also, there was, on the ICIP plan and on the comprehensive plan, is how can we be more walkable, bikeable? What came up at the ICIP meeting is maybe we could do some bike paths along the river. We have a new
Thank you, Andrea.
platform.
That's time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea.
Angie will leave us.
Hi, Angie.
Hello to everyone on the council and to our mayor. I just wanted to talk about the HB1 funds. Well, let me back up. I've been a resident of Ruidoso 23 years. I'm a realtor. I have vacation rental properties, about 75, and a handful of those are on the river. I own 5 properties myself on the river, soon to acquire a 6th property on the river. So I am one of the many residents in Ruidoso invested in the success of our river and rebuilding our bridges and waterways. What I would like to do today is, with the HB1 funds that have been allocated, I'm requesting transparency of those funds. Also a timeline. I understand that we have 2 fiscal years to use or lose the funds, so 2 years flies by. So where do we stand with a timeline so far? A clarification of what political subdivisions receive the $70 million When I read the bill, I translate that to mean Ruidoso, Lincoln County. The mayor said that that's a drop in the bucket, the 70 million. The governor stated in her July 30th meeting, or letter, it was titled House Executive Message 2, that we actually require 300 to 500 million in disaster funding. So the way we use that 70 is very important. And what myself and a couple of the other residents on the river are doing is we're organizing a group. So far, we want to call it the Riverside Watershed Residents Group. We want to stay informed of all these issues, and we would love to work with you guys. We don't want to cast blame or say, why is this not being done? We want to work with you and making sure that this is successful. If we worked as a group, say with the NRCS, instead of individually, the Upper Canyon River group, the Brady Canyon, the Fern Trail, Robin Road, Paradise Canyon, that's just a few, there's more out there. But if we work collectively as a group, we could probably make better timing and use our time more effective. One of the residents asked me, well, do you remember 2021 with the NRCS? They had submitted a proposal, I guess, to the village of improving the bridges and the waterways. Whatever happened to that? Again, I'm not casting blame. How do we learn from our past history to move forward and do a better job? If the other thing I wanted to talk about was communicating with us. The mayor's 2-hour talk show is really informative. I just find that myself and other residents, it's hard to sit on a Monday morning for 2 hours. Is there any way we could take that information and bullet it and put it on the Ruidoso, just summarize it, put it on the website, the village website? I was talking to Eugene Heathman, and he would be very happy to share that on the newspaper. The newspaper it's pretty impressive. I was taking a look at it today, and it has all the local news that we all have been missing. So the last thing is, and I see Riker's here and going to talk about it, I'm sure, the Lincoln County Community Foundation, it would be really nice if we could see where all of the funds are going, where are they being allocated? We don't need to know names of people, but just, some ideas like, hey, all our hard work has gone here, here, and there. So I'm sure Riker's going to fill us in on that, but if maybe that was on the website as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Angie.
Dana Shank?
Hello, I am Dana Shank, and I'm a Ruidoso resident, and Angie and I are neighbors down on Fern Trail. Just a couple of points. I should be very brief. We had applied through FEMA when we lost our business on July 3rd for their disaster recovery assistance. Of course, we had to go through SBA. That was July 3rd. Our application is still under review. Is there anything or any direction you guys can give to small businesses on how to find resources for assistance other than through SBA? I also was curious about the village disaster recovery plan. Is that something that's in writing? I know, you guys have worked on it, just the disaster in general, but is this something that we had in our back pocket for years and we just need to tweak to meet our current needs? When can we expect to see some detailed plans as far as recovery in the next 12 months and moving forward? There was a meeting on August 5th with a lot of, I believe there were state, local, and federal leaders there, and can we know what was discussed in that meeting? Was that something that was any good? Did any good come out of that? Just going back on the disaster recovery plan, when can we expect the roads and bridges to be repaired? We know it's just not going to be tomorrow, but how long in the future will that take? We're going to host the 2025 New Mexico Municipal League Conference, and what will the village look like at that point when we're inviting people to our village? What can we as citizens be doing? There's a lot of citizens who say, hey, how can I help? Can we be writing to people? Can we be visiting Santa Fe? What can we do? And if you guys will let us know, there's a lot of people who would be willing to help you guys out. And lastly, is there a website that we can go to that has all of the disaster recovery options and entities? A lot of times I go on Facebook looking for stuff, and one person will say this and it contradicts with another person. And would it be possible to just have one website for all of those organizations? And kind of like Angie said, could the village updates, weekly updates, be posted on that as well? Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. A lot of good points. Now then, we'll move on to maybe we can get some answers if I do it this way. Let's go to reports from municipal officials. So we'll just go through. Does anybody want to start?
Sure.
Go ahead, Greg.
Mayor, council, I had the pleasure of meeting several times with various local citizens and business owners, including two of the speakers during public input. I'm trying to get a sense of what the community's going through. By and large, the primary concern of the people I've talked to right now is the status of our infrastructures, including bridge safety and priority of bridge replacement. As Angie and Dana mentioned, lots of needs on Fern Trail. For those of us that have toured it, it's a pretty sobering sight. Questions on condemnation and rights of eminent domain. I've indicated that the village currently has no plans of exercising eminent domain. Discussion about flood mitigation. I met with some more people this morning. Questions about, is the Forest Service, starting to drop seeds? What's happening there? Questions about flood zone designations. I met with the school superintendent and director of the Chamber of Commerce today, getting a sense of where the school population is. As you all know, our schools are primarily funded by a number of students, and there's concern that the students have dropped. The Chamber is starting to work on broadcasting what is open in the village, and I mentioned to Tom Dorgan, they're going to try to summarize the attractions that are open to try to overcome the perception that the village is closed and we don't want people here. So good discussions. I appreciate the suggestions and wisdom the people I've talked to have been willing to share with me. One last thing, Catholic Relief Services will be on site at St. Eleanor's Catholic Church on Friday, August 6th, starting at 10 a.m. So if there are citizens seeking relief, I encourage you to meet with Catholic Relief Services on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hooker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just spitballing here off of what Councilor Corey said, some of the things when he was mentioning that, Forest Service, Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, NRCS, SPA, State of New Mexico. I could go on and on. All of those entities, in some ways, we are just as much, I don't want to say hostage, but we have to go through them to get things done, to do things, just as the citizens out there have to. As much as we would love to fix bridges, as much as we would love to go in and say, oh, yeah, you can build back CID, the state arm of builders, all of those people come into play. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, that is the reason you get a lot of the backlog, a lot of where do we go. I filed my claim at this point. I still haven't heard anything. And it's not an excuse. I'm not making excuses at all. It's just merely the bureaucracy, unfortunately, that we live in. I can safely say that this council, and I'm just going to say it, has done everything we possibly can. Is it enough? Nope. Is everybody happy? Nope. But we got to keep going, and that's what we're going to keep doing. Just like it was said on the radio this morning about push information out, call, keep asking. Hey, what about this? What about that? It might have fallen through the crack. Somebody that got tasked to go check on that debris pile might have gotten sidetracked. So keep calling and keep asking. And again, the mayor has caught the brunt of this. I know he knows that's what it's like being the mayor. But after a while, it just wears you out. But we're all in this. And when I say all in this together, somebody could say, hey, did you lose your house? And I'd say, no, I didn't. Did you get flooded out? No, I didn't. So when I say all in this together, I'm the guy sitting up here as the government, the local government that says, we're here to help. And we'll do the best we can. That's more than I've ever said in 2
Yeah, it
years.
is. I didn't know who you were for a minute.
For a whole year.
Next there, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Really, you guys took it all, but no, not really. But I do want to say a thank you and gratitude to the community. As the young lady mentioned earlier, we pulled together during the worst of times. And I go back to floods in '84, and I thought that was bad. But this one I've never seen, as we all haven't experienced this. But again, it's patience. That's all we could do. We get frustrated. You know, some of those closed meetings right there, you don't want to hear what was said in there. I mean, wow, I guess there'll be a lot of bleeping and stuff like that. But it was good discussion and networking that takes place in those meetings. And it's just attacking the issue at hand and the quickest way to respond to it. And so that's where working with the Mescalero Apache tribe, with the state of New Mexico, FEMA, all the agencies that have been listed here, everyone has their own protocol.
Yeah.
And that's what gets frustrating to us. And it changes. They change the rules here and there. And, or the one I heard, oh, we forgot to mention, you got a fence around all the debris that's over there on Grindstone Canyon Road. So there's another added expense, you know, and it's like, wait a minute, we're gonna move it soon. As soon as we get the agreement with Roswell at their landfill to haul that to. And that took a little bit of time. So it's those kind of little hiccups that we get coming up that delays a lot of issues. And again, our staff, the Village of Ruidoso, the staff of PNM, the staff of Zia Natural Gas, Windstream, they're all out there working hard to get our utilities back in line, our roads as clear as soon as possible after an event. And those employees are just getting worn out. So we need like we said, as a community, just stick together and just give us some time on addressing these bureaucracy of the federal government paperwork. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Letterman.
Well, everybody has pretty much said everything. I would like to address the NRCS, the river. We've just spent 2 years restoring the river banks and mitigating flooding. Two Rivers Park, I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful all up through there. And as you know, it's all gone. So we have been working with NRCS, trying to do our part. But it's gone, but we're going to redo it. And so, just like everybody else said, it is a hurry up and wait. I mean, to the regular public, me, if you go Gavilan Canyon and you see a 20-foot cliff that there's no road, you would think that you could bring all these agencies together and say, we got to fix this. Here's the money. We got to fix this. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. It goes through different portions, and then we have to figure out if that money can even be spent on that. And so it is a lot of hurry up and wait. So like Rifle said, please bear with us, because there is not a day or night that goes by that every one of us aren't thinking of this. My family's lived here 7 generations, and in all the books, there's the floods, and there's the fire, but there's never been 25,000 acres that surrounded Ruidoso, every major canyon coming into Ruidoso, that has been burned, and some of it moonscaped. And no matter where it rains, it's somewhere it's going to flood. And so please know that all of you, I was lucky, missed the fire by 300 yards. And so there's that guilt as well, is when I see somebody that has lost their home or lost their home to the flood, there is a guilt. But just know that we are working day and night to come up with suggestions. Can we go this way? Can we go that way? And we definitely appreciate all of your suggestions. So please don't ever not say anything, because who knows, it may be a light that we say, oh, that's a great idea, let's try that. So thank you very much. Thank you for being Ruidoso Strong.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Eby.
Thank you, Mayor. I think all of you all covered everything as far as the bureaucracy and what the village is trying to do as far as the staff and the governing body. But I do want to mention that all that bleeping that Rifle was talking about would have been because of Councilor Letterman.
Yes, it would. I will just say that.
So I'll just go on to say, you know, like Dana was talking about how strong this community is and how they pull together and such, but I worked with Samaritan Purse for a week, and my wife volunteered for 3 weeks, and they told us that they have never ever bonded with the community before, that coming to Ruidoso, that they really got to know the people here, that they actually bonded with them, and they built relationships with people in Ruidoso. So that gets a testament to the character of the people that live here, and their strength, and also their openness and friendliness, and accepting, just showing who they are. And I just want to say thank you to the community for your suggestions, for your hard work, for desiring to get Ruidoso back to the best it can be. I will say, as far as the $70 million, that's just, as I said, a drop in the bucket, because that, of course, is going to be split up between the village, the county, and also we have to take into consideration the valley. You know, the acequias down there that have been torn up there, they're in bad shape down there. So the Eagle River Bridge, not the Eagle River, but the Eagle Bridge, when it was completed, was $1.2 million. That was back in 2012. So you could look at a cost of bridges now being $3 million plus, and there's just no way that the village could afford to pay for out of pocket that much money for all the bridges that need to be replaced. Now, So I'll close with thank you for the staff and the workers, people that keep the village going, because they've been putting in long, hard hours, and they've been at it, and they've been working tirelessly, and they're dedicated to the village and supplying the services and the cleanup, everything that's happening with the floods after every event. So next time you see a village worker, just go over there and shake their hand and say thank you for your work and for your support for this village. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Just a couple things. I might bring you in on it, Ron. If we could talk about the 70 million, or it started out as 100 million. 10 million in a grant out of the 100 million went to the tribe. 10 million went to DHSEM, which is Homeland Security for the state grant. And then 10 million went to MNERD, which is minerals, natural, whatever. It's the forestry.
State forestry.
So they got 10 million. So there's 30 million. The 70 million is a loan, zero interest, which it'll be forgiven. We're very confident. That is between the village of Ruidoso, City of Ruidoso Downs, Lincoln County, Otero County, Sandoval County, Mora County, and Las Vegas. So that 70 million is going to go really quick. Now, how do you get to the 70 million, Ron?
So everyone, on this funding here, through the process with Department of Finance and Administration, the village first has to go through a level 3. And I'll have Judy here, but it's a level 3 review.
Phase 3.
By FEMA, level 3, that has to be approved by FEMA. And this is after the disaster is ended. What they do is they come in, FEMA, they do an assessment of all the damages, bridges, roadways, all the infrastructure. At that time, FEMA will issue what's called a project worksheet, PW. At that time, the village would receive a copy of that, approved by the governing body, approved by FEMA, approved by the state. The state of New Mexico is the grantee, the village is the sub-grantee. But before we can start anything to even dip into those funds, the level 3 review has to be approved by FEMA in order for the state to then reimburse the village for all these expenses that we submitted. They said, yes, all these expenses here are eligible, and then at that time, we would receive the loan funding. When the way we will pay back the loan funds is whenever FEMA does its reimbursement, which could take anywhere from 12 months to 36 months, it's a lengthy process. At that time, the money will go directly back to the state.
Yes, ma'am. This is Judy Starkovich. Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Judy Starkovich. I'm the finance director for the village of Ruidoso. So what that is really saying is that the drawdown of funds isn't going to be anytime soon.
Right.
It's going to be once the damage assessments are done, and then once everybody gets their split between federal, state, and us. So even though we're getting funding, we still will have a match on our own to pay for all these projects, whether it be 8%, 10%, I don't know. We don't know what the funding of the disaster is going to be. So we probably will be far down the line. And as Ron said, that just takes time to go through all the reviews and stuff. And with the scope of works are going to have to be really planned out as far as each project is. So that means it's our engineer plus FEMA's engineers going through all the numbers, going through the design. So it's not going to be a overnight process.
Okay, don't go anywhere. So remind us how much money we have saved. What's in our savings?
So at the end of, in the general fund, at the end of June, we had approximately 10 million. I don't know the exact figure. 4 of that had been used to balance the fiscal year 25 budget in rollovers. Of that amount, another 3 million was set aside on state statutes require us to withhold 8% of our budgeted expenditures as a reserve. Some time ago, when the village was experiencing the flood, the fire, and the whatever freeze, they decided to do another 8%. So we actually saved 16% of the cash balance of for reserve. this past budget season, council had designated that the additional 8% that we had in reserve could be used to fund for disasters. So that leaves us approximately another 3 million. So when you look at it, we probably have 10 million was the rollover, 4 million was going to be balancing the budget, and then the 3 million is the 16%. So we have probably another 2.5 left. But as you know, I just checked what we spent on the expenses for the EOC, keeping it running, and we're at 1.5 million with all these temporary expenses. We've started on writing the application to reimburse us for the expenses for categories A and B. A is debris removal and B is the Emergency Operations Center. However, of that 1.5, it's still going to be some time before we even get reimbursed on that. So that extra 2 million that we had left is probably already gone. So right now, we'll have to come into fiscal year 25 because now that the racetrack has closed down, our GRT is going to decrease. We already saw a decrease in lodger's tax for July, which would have been June stays. We were down 140,000 for the month. We received 130. We usually get 270 for July's receipts. So you know we're probably going to be down another 40 or 50% in lodger's tax, which means people aren't going to be coming to our town, so that's going to affect GRT. Right now, the estimates, I'm thinking we're going to be about 40 or 45% down in GRT. And as you know, GRT is about 85% of our budget. So we will have to be going back to departments, and we will probably have to start cutting our budgeted amounts. So when we cut budget, that means a reduction in cost of service.
And Mayor, go ahead. Mayor and council and everyone here in attendance today, we as a village, following the mayor's lead, we are having discussions with Department of Finance, Department of Homeland Security on the 70 million, how we can get it quicker. And they're having meetings, so we never stop in talking to our state and federal agencies because we need the money now. We all know that, and we continue to, on a daily basis, contact the departments. And the mayor, I mean, he's our leader in our governing body, and they're out there also lobbying for us. So always know that they're there.
Okay, would you have something, Ruffle?
You go ahead.
Can I say one more thing? When we met with FEMA, they introduced us to a community disaster loan. I have started to apply for that, and what it is it is a grant up to $5 million that can be used. Well, it's not a grant at first, it's a loan that can be used to replace operating revenues. And what happens is you can get up to $5 million. However, they look at your current budget, they look at what your operational revenues have decreased after the disaster, and depending on the amount is what you qualify for the loan. Once you get the loan, they look at your current future 3 periods, and if you report a loss in those next 3 periods, then your loan can be forgiven, and then it's just your money and you don't have to pay it back. However, we would be the first people in New Mexico that have ever applied for this loan. So currently, FEMA does not have a process that works with New Mexico to get this loan out to us. So they will have to get with New Mexico to devise a process in order for us to qualify for the money and to get it distributed. So they said it could take, on a usual basis, it could take 3 to 6 months to get the loan, but since we'd be the first applicant, it could take anywhere between 9 months to a year.
Yep. I think you're covering how easy this process is.
Yes.
So that's all I was wanting to point out is that the 70 million is not there. We can't write checks off of it. We are paying bills, overtime, the extra work that our crews are doing, cleaning the streets, doing the debris removal, all of those things, and trying to improve clearing the waterways, the runoff ways. all of those things that we're doing is just coming out. And so we're going to get reimbursed one day. We just don't know when. And so while the money's there. And so we are on it. We're ahead of everybody else on staying with it, but it's a big deal. So I appreciate you letting us know.
Judy, my question was on the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. You said 1.5 million that we've is the county contributing any money to this, or is it all us?
This is just our portion on some of the expenses.
So they have a separate budget of what they're spending?
Whatever they're spending, and a lot of the invoices that we're currently paying, we're splitting 50-50 with the county.
Okay.
So this is only what we're either already wrote checks for or have open purchase orders for.
Okay.
So there's a lot to this. And I'll just touch on August 5th. I don't see her. She might have left. But on August 5th, that was a meeting that we had at the Inn of the Mountain Gods that State Representative Vincent called because he sees the frustration that we're having. We've reached out to all of our federal folks. You know, Stansberry's been here. We've had representatives from everybody. Ben Ray Lujan's folks are down here all the time. So most everybody. Teresa Ledger Fernandez, AWOL, we can't get a hold of her. What's the other one's name? I'm surprised because he's running for office. He hasn't been here either. Heinrich. Well, he sent Ashley to see us, and she's very good at everything, but we're reaching out to these folks to try to get it done. So what we were trying to do is get everybody that has a lever to pull, a string to pull, a button to push, that could maybe make a difference on speeding this stuff up, got them together to say, you see me, I see you, how can we make this happen quicker? And then we got presentations from everybody. Brocker was there, he gave a presentation on how these things are trying to work together to try to facilitate it, because the answer is there's a program for that. We just can't ever get to the program to get it enacted. And so we've reached out, we started a task force with the county, the tribe, that then we're going to reach out. We've been in contact with all other county, states, even up north, but Colorado, Montana, California, Florida, what's the other ones? Texas even, that have had FEMA operations, you know, Federal Emergency Management. And they're all horror stories, every last one of them, okay, to where you've almost been bankrupt if you're not careful. That's why we're so careful about what we're trying to do. So we're reaching out to change the narrative on how these things are operating. And I got some decent news today from Eddie that we're trying to work with one of these film producers that's coming to town about doing a documentary on how do you get this done and trying to have it at the same time the Matthew McConaughey movie comes out, because we've got to change this. Also, we're working on legislation through the New Mexico Municipal League and around, and we've talked to our federal representatives about changing what the forestry does. How do they approach the forest? Why can't we thin? Why can't we manage? Okay, why aren't we doing those things? Because we've been told, no, we got hot and heavy over this in 2012 with the Little Bear, and it never got any traction. And so, again, we're the village. We're surrounded by forests that we do not own. Okay, and it's like the property that we're working with right now. NRCS is mainly for private property, where they do a 75-25 split. They pay 75%, 25% goes to the property owner, or in this case, let's just use the tribe. They're engaging in that to where they're doing mitigation efforts up on 70 off the salt, where they're going to be putting in detention ponds, trash racks, all the stuff to try to slow it down. Some things have been started. And you can see today, I just checked, we didn't have any flooding issues with the rain and how it was coming back there, because we've been digging everything we can deeper and deeper and deeper. We have to get permits from the Army Corps to get in the riverbed, and that's not always granted immediately. So while we may be the managers and be on the both sides of it, we get fined. Other people get in, they get told to get out. They get to bring us up to bear on it with fines. So a lot of those kind of things. We're trying to be transparent as we can. We have the radio show. You can go on it, and there's a archive section where you can listen to anything. You can fast forward through all the baloney that I throw out there. And then we try to put things on, not just Facebook, but on our website. And at website, we're in a redesign that kind of got held up on this because we're trying to thin out a lot of that operation. But yes, we want to start, and we have started working with the newspaper more to put these things out. And we, there for a while, we did a daily show for a couple of weeks, and we're talking about going back to doing a 9 o'clock. It's just that you can see the frustration of trying to get these things done. And it's kind of tough to say, well, we had another meeting and nothing was accomplished. And that's what we feel like a lot of the times. And that doesn't mean that we don't walk right out, go to another meeting, make phone calls to say, here we are again. Why isn't something happening? Because it all boils down to who's paying for it. And FEMA wants everything documented before they will reimburse you. We could go out here and do everything we wanted to as long as we had money in the bank. We may not get it reimbursed. But if we follow all the guidelines that they set down and you have monitors that are monitoring the monitors to make sure the paperwork's done correctly. That's how important all of this is. And it does get to where the whole idea is to stop waste, fraud, and abuse. And all you see, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, is more waste, fraud, and abuse because of the delay that it gets to helping the people that this is intended for. And so I've started being a lot more vocal on the news stations and in the newspapers to do whatever we can to push. And so, yes, we are asking folks to pay attention so that when you do get a call from us to say, call your representatives, call your governor, call whomever, that you're informed. I don't want you reading a pre-written statement. You know, they know you're sincere. They know that you're affected. And it's not just one or two of us, it's everybody. I may not have lost my house, but about lost my business.
Yep.
You know, I've laid off 60 plus employees. We don't have anything in sight for revenue. And so it's, you know, I experience it. A lot of these other folks that are around here, they're experiencing it. So we understand the village has to maintain strength. We're working and have been working on a recovery because we have plans on emergency response, but we never had anything to this magnitude because we do have marketing plans that are geared to go to when we've had other fires, when we've had other things that we deploy immediately as soon as it's safe, that goes to digital billboards, that we start putting advertisements in our markets. We do all that. We've already done a lot of that, only to be compared to the mayor in Jaws. You know, come on in, the water's fine. We get them here, then we get a flood. You know, and it concerns people, and it is concerning. So a lot of these things we've been working on. One other thing I want to touch on is grants. Because I watched the ICIP meeting. That was the other day that people were really kind of confused about what the meeting was, but it was very aware of, we were all aware of that people are upset, and I get it. Why did you spend $1 million on parks and stuff when you could have spent that on whatever? Okay, well, the way grants work, they have a specific grant that is pigeonholed over here for quality of life issues, water trust board issues, water issues, sewer issues, street issues. We have to apply to each one of those and fight with every other community in the state to get those funds. And we've been super successful, okay? Like the $13 million that we put in the airport, it couldn't go anywhere else but an airport. The $1 million that we got on the school parks and all the equipment can't go anywhere but to a project like that. Can't go on roads. We have the mapping it's the municipal arterial mapping program for roads that we go after vigorously every year, and you're going to see some on the agenda today. We go after those. All the money that we can compete for, that we can get, that's free to us, that don't mean it's free. We go after that, and we've been very successful. So a lot of these things that's still on the recovery plan, that's fluid. We're engaging. We have a meeting tomorrow at 10 on a task force that is with the county, the Downs, us, different people in the community. And again, we start out and then we can't invite 50 people. And then we got a bunch of people that are yelling. And what we're looking for is people that can have value added, that can have some subject matter expertise, some people that can take the we, put it back in it instead of just me. Because what we're getting is a lot of people that how it's affecting them personally. And what we're trying to do is make sure how do we do it for everybody. And then if we're successful, the people that are working it will help them out too. As far as commercial recovery, the only thing that's available is those loans, and we will start checking on those again. We ask for updates on those. We don't get, they're not going to give us names. They just flat told us that. So I don't know how much people have been receiving. They said there's been over $6 million doled out in the community. I've asked on the radio, we've asked on web. If you've got it, just let me know you've got it so I know somebody's getting it. You know, I just don't know. We're trying to inspect what we expect. So anyway, I could go on for hours and bore you more, but the simple thing is there's nothing simple, unfortunately. But we do feel like we're getting some traction, that we are moving things forward. The cleanup is supposed to be starting today in Upper Canyon, where they're going to go in and clean all the lots, haul all the debris off. They're going to be starting over in Alto, I think, at the same time, and then just working forward. So there should be a lot of locals that are out here working and getting paid. So hopefully that happens. Okay, now we'll move back to consent regular items. Go to item number 1, approval of governing body minutes, July 9th, 2024 regular meeting, July 29th, 2024 special meeting. Item number 2, approval of purchase of a 2024 Ford F-150 4x4 from Chalmers Ford, utilizing the statewide price agreement. Number 00-5-00-00121 in the amount of $52,435.00, and the purchase of emergency equipment from MHQ, West Emergency and Service Solutions, utilizing statewide contract number 20-5-21-00030 in the amount of $13,172.97, including New Mexico GRT, for a final total of $61,307.97. Number 3, approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-26, a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a water project fund loan grant agreement by and between the New Mexico Finance Authority, NMFA, and the Village of Ruidoso in the total amount of $1,187,944. I guess there's supposed to be some 0 cents in there, including a loan in the amount of $118,794 for Phase 2 of the tank restoration project. These are for water tanks and things like that. Item number 4 is approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-30, a resolution approving an agreement setting forth the terms and conditions of active membership in the Southeastern New Mexico Economic Development District Council of Governments in the amount of $2,450.00. That's great money being spent. Item number 5, approval of Certificate of Records Destruction number 2024-003. Item number 6, and when we say that's just paper products that have been here for years. The rest of it's all on microfiche and digital. Item number 6, approval of final change order number 2 with Hasse Contracting Company for the Grindstone Dam, Principal Spillway and North Dam Crest Concrete Repairs, ITB, number 2023-017B, resulting in a decrease of contract amount by $45,301.94, including New Mexico GRT. Item number 7 is approval of task order RFP number 2021-007P-11, Amendment 3 Riverwell, H 1979-S3 Rehabilitation, and H 1979-S13 Clean Out and Pumping Test with John Shoemaker and Associates, Inc. to increase cost by $15,055.44 for a total project cost of $89,850.63, including New Mexico GRT. Item number 8, approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-31, a resolution authorizing and approving the submission of a completed grant loan agreement for financial assistance to the New Mexico Finance Authority Water Trust Board for the Alto Lake Dam Spillway Flood Routing Analysis and Spillway Design for fiscal year 2025. Item number 9, approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-32, a resolution authorizing and approving the submission of a completed grant loan agreement for financial assistance to the New Mexico Finance Authority Water Trust Board for the Two Rivers Raw Water Intake and Transmission Line for fiscal year 2025. Number 10, approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-33, a resolution authorizing and approving the submission of a completed grant loan agreement for financial assistance to the New Mexico Finance Authority Water Trust Board for the re-drilling of Hollywood Well for fiscal year 2025. Item number 11, approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-34, resolution authorizing and approving the submission of a completed grant loan agreement for financial assistance. I told you they were going after a lot of money from the Water Trust Board because they have a lot this year. So I appreciate the Water Department going after that. New Mexico Finance Authority Water Trust Board for the construction of erosion control structures within Grindstone Canyon. Item number 13, approval of adoption of Resolution 2024-36, a resolution authorizing and approving the submission of a completed grant loan agreement for financial assistance to the New Mexico Finance Authority Water Trust Board for the design and construction of Wingfield Homestead Second Edition water line replacement. Item number 14, approval of agreement with the New Mexico Department of Transportation for supply of salt for snow and ice removal on the New Mexico Highway 48.
Mayor, I move approval of the consent regular items as read.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Thank you. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Okay. And while we're here, let's move to regular items if there's no objections, and we'll have the billing department come up and discuss the utility billing issues due to the South Fork and salt fires.
After that, we're going to jump back to right now, under your report, the manager's report.
Okay. I just wanted to, I
Yeah.
was going to run through these, but we can do it.
So Mayor and councilors, as a result of the fire and the floods, as customers call in that say their house has been destroyed or is longer there, we have been deactivating their account, so they currently won't get any bills going forward. And as long as it's the property owner who is coming back who lost his home, they won't have to put a deposit down to restart service. They just come in whenever they're ready. However, if they sell the property to somebody else that's a new customer to us, then a deposit will have to be made. When you were looking at, unfortunately, the fire hit just as we had increased the utility rates, which we had been talking for about a year already. When you look at a residential bill, it is going up about $30 a month. However, the individual rates for water, sewer, wastewater did not all go up by the same amounts. When we were going through the sewer rate or the utility rate analysis, they took the consumptions on each different utility, and then they were looking at the needs for infrastructure for each different utility, and they were trying to project utility rates that would cover not only operations, maintenance, but any new infrastructure that was needed over the next 10 years. So you'll see that water rates went up about 12%, and then sewer rates went up about 9%. And then wastewater, it looks like it was the highest increase, which was about 60%. But as you recall, back in October of '21, we gave a rebate of $17 on those rates because we had been collecting cash that was a little bit high than we needed, and so we decided to give the utility users a rebate on the rate, so we had cut the rate by $17. So what that was really telling us is that we were probably at the right rate, that we needed to plan for any new expansions at the wastewater treatment facility. So what happened is that rate went back up, and it looked up. And then I know the rates sound a lot, but on a residential inside amount, we went from $33.84 a month to $37.90. So even though the percentages sound a lot. You got to remember that the bill is not only water, it's sewer, wastewater, and all those individual rates that eventually make up the whole utility bill,
Including forestry.
including forestry and solid waste. Now, I know we have been in the past, if the user had a leak on their side, we weren't giving any leak credits. However, we do try to work with the customers and give them a payment plan. And so if they do have a leak on their side or a flappy toilet deal that they have a big bill, we usually try to take that excess bill and divide it for them up within 12 payments or 6 payments, however they feel. And so as long as they keep paying their current utility bill and then additional against the arrears, we usually let them go that way if it's on their side.
Interest-free.
Interest-free.
Mayor, question for Judy. I've had a couple of citizens tell me they're not getting callbacks from when they're calling, asking about water billing. Who should they be calling?
So we are getting a lot of calls, and there's only 3 people in the utility billing department. And so before, most people were just calling, how much is my bill? But now the calls are extending a little bit longer, 5, 10, 15 minutes. And when you have everybody calling, it's getting a little overwhelming. So this past week, we have incorporated additional people to help us in the call bank. So now, not only does it ring to those 3 people, if they're all on the phone, then it'll ring to executive in the back, Teresa in their area, Christy Coker in purchasing, Kathy Richardson. So we have about 4 or 5 more people to help answer. However, if you roll over to the people that aren't in the utility billing queue, they are only going to be taking a name and a number because they don't have access to the utility billing accounts. And sometimes they don't always have the same information that the utility girls do. So we're just taking a name and number and somebody will call back.
Can they email?
Yeah, they can email utilities@ruidoso-nm.gov. Or they can always come down and talk to us in person too. I know people have been coming around a lot just to talk, and sometimes they're staying a little bit longer to talk because people are experiencing a lot of tragedy. So a lot of times the calls are taken along just because the girls are chit-chatting with the person on the other side to make them feel heard and comfortable and trying to answer a lot of the questions and stuff.
you.
So.
Okay. Christella, do you have anything?
No, just want to reiterate that if you do decide to go along with a payment plan, that you'll be required to enroll in Ion Water so that you can see any further issues with your billing. You'll be notified sooner, and you can keep an eye on your water bill or your bill and see if there's any unusual water usage. That's helpful to customers. You don't necessarily have to be on a payment plan to enroll in that. We're hoping to have some more articles and information go out to customers so that they can be aware of that website, or so that they can utilize that to help them with their billing
Okay.
as well.
And have you been able to put together, I know you've been working on rough numbers on loss of revenue, because we still have our bills to pay too, but with all these homes that have burned out, that we won't be receiving that money anymore.
We are trying to tackle it to what we think it's going to be. At this point, I don't have anything in true numbers, but I could try to get that together for the next.
I know just rough estimates are about $630,000 a year minimum is what.
It could be with the new rate structure.
And the amount of homes that are gone. And again, the
And
enterprise.
that's I'm sorry.
And the enterprise funds, can you briefly explain to those what that means to have an enterprise fund?
So an enterprise fund is basically a business fund. And what it does is it sets its rates to cover its operating expenses, personnel, operations, maintenance, and to help expand any future expansions, whether it be infrastructure, equipment, whatever the department needs. So the rate is set at a rate based on how much consumption they have, whether it be water or whatever you're doing, so that the fund is independently self-sufficient to where the general fund doesn't have to subsidize it. So back in 2014, when we went through that, water increased. At that time, sewer was paying for water. So they had to increase the water rates in order to get water a little bit more self-sustaining, but because water rates hadn't been adjusted in a long time, only water was increased and not sewer. So now that we came back and did the study in '23, that's why all the rates had to go up, because the only rate that had ever been adjusted since that 2014 rate analysis was water. So you have from 2014 to 2024, that's about 10 years of added inflation. And you know, in the last 2 or 3 years, costs have extremely skyrocketed. So that's why the rates had to go up so much. And that's why, unfortunately, going forward, we're gonna have to keep this up and an increase each year. And then on every 5 years, we'll have to come back and revisit and see what the future capital outlay needs for each individual fund are gonna be, because then rates will have to be adjusted again. We weren't adjusting them every year, and I think that's where it kicked us in the pants, because we were trying to hold off an increase for the rate users, and then we thought we were doing them good, but in the end, we weren't, because we should have been increasing them each year.
And the reason we were doing that is our GRT was up because sales were so good for the village that we were experiencing a rise here, so we were trying to keep it low for the users. And then with the fire, and then really the fire has nothing to do with these rates, actually, so. Anyway, yes, sir, Adam, did you have something you wanted to add?
I just wanted to go into a little bit what Judy was talking about, the leak credits and stuff like that. You know, if somebody is submitting a leak credit to the water billing department, make sure you have a plumber's bill and what, you know, kind of a description of what happened with your leak. And another thing to remember is, you know, when we do our water audit at the end of the year, they take into the account, you know, if we give credits to the people, it goes against non-revenue water. So that's why, you know, the audit looks so high, that's part of it, is us, it's non-revenue. It's not leakage, it's not, you know, anything else, it's non-revenue.
And again, we're monitored, we have water rights throughout this village, that we're the only people in this whole valley that are metered. And so we get audited by the OSE, the upstate engineer, and if we go over our allotted, what we purchased, the village owns, which we've had for years, water rights, then they charge us double back. And so that's why we're so stingy with our water usage around here, because we really are. We've done surveys, third-party surveys to show just how efficient the village is. So thank you very much. So anybody that know this, Twinkle Toes on the radio.
In Mayor and
Comes in every
Council,
morning, does a great job.
Judy and I also been discussing on the loss of revenue for the property tax. We spoke with the Property Tax Division, Ira Pearson at the state, and once the next valuation hits, you're going to see a decrease from all the homes that were lost, so.
Yeah.
So, Mayor and Council, so as you know, each December, we issue the 1.5 million in water infrastructure projects for GO bonds. So at this point, we might need to maybe delay that or maybe just wait to see where we're at. The actual, our bond resolution, so the bond ordinance says that we can issue 3 million every 2 years. So if we decide not to do the 1.5 because rates and the property values are out of skew, we can always delay it. As you know, we've been issuing bonds since 2014, so we do have about 9 years of payments on GO bond issues that we will need to make this year. And we are currently going with the state under our GO bond levy right now to determine what they're going to set the property tax rate at as far as our debt is concerned. And we should be hearing back within the next month or two about where it's at. It has been frozen at 1.5 mils since we started the GO bond cycling program, but with the decrease in values, that mill levy could go up.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
I've got a comment, that, Judy, pipe in if I'm saying this wrong, but if you had a large bill and you did find out that you had a water leak, that if you bring in your, the bill from the plumber that fixed your water leak, that we would look at it on an individual basis.
This is the guy that reviews them, so I'll let him talk about it.
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Letterman, yeah. When they bring in the leak credit in the plumber's bill, it has to match the ordinance, what is actually put in ordinance. So that's what I look at. Do they have a cutoff on their side? Does it actually, is it a mainline leak, to go with ordinance? That's the criteria we look at to give the credit.
So they fill out a form, and then they apply any pertinent documentation, the plumber's letter, maybe they might do a diagram, whatever they think is necessary for us to make it easier for Adam to know what happened with the leak, so he can have an overall picture. Whatever information that they can give, they just drop it off to the girls in front, and then they get it to Adam.
And would that be the same way if you're from out of town and all of our internet was down at that time? And if you have on your computer what is it called?
Ion water.
Ion water.
Thank you. You couldn't tell. Could you bring in something that,
It still has to be repaired.
Yeah, it still has to be repaired. We got to.
Okay, so you still have to have the bill, and then okay.
And if you fix it yourself, bring me in the bill from, Ace Hardware, wherever you got the parts from, and tell me what broke.
Okay.
So I can look at that.
Okay.
Because we try to be fair on that. You're just limited by the ordinance and the anti-donation clause in the New Mexico Constitution is a big part of that. So anything else?
But it has to be a leak.
Yeah.
We do not give credits because the flapper in your toilet was left unrunning. And what people don't realize is that a flapper that's left for a couple of hours, even though the trickle on the toilet doesn't sound like it's a lot, that bill can end up being pretty big.
Yep.
So if you hear your toilet running, try to jiggle it and catch it, because
Yeah, a week of that.
a week of that.
$1,000.
And you can see it exactly on Ion Water, because somebody before bed will go to the restroom, and then the leak will happen all the way through, and then somebody must go back to the bathroom in mid-morning. And then so they jiggle it and it stops, and then it goes down, and then somebody goes to the bathroom in the morning, and then the leak comes back up. So you can kind of see whether or not it's a toilet flapper or not.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
So the main message is get on Ion Water for your water bill and usage.
Because generally it works fine. So appreciate it. Hey, we'll move back. I was asked if we can move to village manager's report. Ronald?
All right, Mayor and Council, so we're going to have a couple of really good updates. We have Colin Kruger. He's with our Elk Meadows project. He's the developer. If anyone hasn't heard, we did receive for the 9% project. We did tax credit. We were funded, and we're very fortunate, 72 unit. And Mr. Colin, I'm going to give it to you.
Thanks, Ron. Firstly, I want to express my best wishes to everybody in the village who's been suffering from these fires and floods. The good news is that our Elk Meadows project has not been particularly negatively affected. We're still on time. We'll add 72 units, as Ron described, which translates into 125 bedrooms to the village's housing stock. And we're committed to the success of this project and hopefully future projects in the village as well. As far as the update is concerned, we're securing our financing commitments now. We anticipate a late November closing for this project. We're currently working with the village's planning commission on some site plan revisions based on studies that we have on the ingress and egress, the topo, other matters. We're working with the village on a drainage plan as well. Those are the most pressing issues as our design and construction drawings are scheduled to be completed by Labor Day. And that date actually will also coincide with the completion of all our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings. Our hope is that we can begin our permit process with the CID out of Las Cruces in early next month. Currently, we're also working with the village and the New Mexico Department of Transportation on a traffic assessment, and I'm also hopeful that that process will move efficiently as well. The environmental studies that we did has been completed. That report is pending the drainage study and our water supply plans, our sewer letter that has to be reviewed by the New Mexico Environmental Division for compliance on behalf of the finance agency for any federal or state projects. As part of that report, we did have to report on any cultural, historical, and biological considerations as well. So again, our goal is closing this year, and we hope to break ground as soon as possible next year, as soon as the weather lets up and we can get our crews out there.
Okay, thank you. And just to tell everybody where Elk Meadows is at, it's over here on Meacham, right next to P&M. That vacant property the village bought some years back, and this is a 72-unit apartment complex. So we're excited to get that started. Thank you, Colin. Does anybody have any questions for Colin? Thank you, Colin.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Mayor, Council, our next presenter is Mr. Johnny Montoya with Windstream Kinetic, and I will let him introduce his colleague there.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good morning. Afternoon, I mean. Is his mic on?
The red light's on.
You want the green light?
It's green now, Mr. Mayor.
There you go, I can hear you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. Johnny Montoya with Windstream. With me today is Brent Bannister. Maybe you have seen Brent around. Brent has been our go-to for all things recovery in Ruidoso as it related to the issues recently had. Brent is a staff manager with our construction team and has been very helpful. So he's here to answer any technical questions we may have. Let me begin, Mr. Mayor, by first, I think this is our first public discussion regarding the overbuild plan since the fires and the floods. Let me begin by saying that there wasn't a tremendous amount of collaboration that happened amongst the telecommunications providers when this thing happened. Ourselves, Mescalero Apache Telecom, Godfrey and Jotty, Verizon, TDS, PNM, Tularosa Basin. There were providers from around the area who all got together immediately the first week of the fire and started collaborating. And it was a collaboration where we were no longer competitors. We were saying, if you need electronics, if you need fiber, if you need to borrow a truck, if you need to borrow our yard, we were in it every day. We were on phone calls with this organization trying to get material and the community restored as soon as possible. So a phenomenal shout out to Mescalero Apache Telecom and Godfrey and Jotty. They were phenomenal spearheading that group, and to the rest of the providers who were part of that. The first item that we wanted to talk about was really well, let me begin by saying we have recently moved our construction of our overbuild project from outside sources using Cascade to in-house. So we have brought in in-house crews, which we can get into the specifics, to help speed that process along. We think, number one, it would be more efficient. Number two, it would allow us to apply more accountability. And number three, the speed to get things done quicker. So we have four crews working in Ruidoso right now, and we are in the process of bringing in a fifth crew to continue not just the restoration, but the overbuild. With regard to the update, and we'll get into the restoration in a minute. With regard to the update, as I said, we have shifted from outsourcing our construction to in-house. What that means for us is that I don't have a specific polygon or area update on what percentage were completed in certain areas. It's an internal reason, and that is we track our construction progress separately from our in-house progress, and we happen to be right between the two where we're transitioning from one to the other. I do have an update for you with regard to all of that, though. Like I said, we've got crews in the village now, moving the project forward. We took, for restoration, we broke our project areas into 6 priority zones. We are currently in priority zone number 5. So we have completed, this is restoration. We completed, our first priority was Crown Ridge, and that has now been fully completed. Our second priority was Olympia Drive, fully completed. Our third priority was Coconino.
Bond Club Gas.
That one's fully completed. And our fourth priority was Gavilan Canyon, which is now 100% completed. We are currently working in our 5th priority area, which is Cedar Ridge. And that's where the crew and activity are working right now. The 6th priority, and hopefully our final restoration priority, is West Main, an area that obviously was hit pretty hard. So we're still assessing that area before we move into it. I think it's important to note, as it relates to the P3 project, that we had to really go back in and re-engineer the entire project, right? There was obviously devastation in certain parts of the village that required us to re-engineer and shift our priorities to other areas. So we have done that, and that seems to be moving along well. We are working behind PNM, and they have been tremendous, and they have been working diligently to get poles back up where they need to be back up. So we're working behind PNM. In these priority areas where they have stopped putting up poles is where we've stopped installing our fiber on their poles. Now we're assessing on whether we bury it from that point or how, whether we put our own poles or what we do at that point. We're still in that area of completion. So PNM has been phenomenal. Through this process, it has also helped us identify areas that we didn't have planned to begin with. So we had a couple of polygons that were going to be an issue at one time that we've been able to focus some manpower and some engineering on. And it looks like we may be able to connect those polygons where there were issues before. Also, which isn't 100% relevant to the village, but we also have 6 new projects that we're working on with Ruidoso Downs that are we've issued them. They've gone out of engineering. But hopefully that will help. I mean, the deeper you get fiber closer to you, the better it is for everybody. So as we work towards those projects as well, it'll help the entire area. So with that, Mr. Mayor, again, I want to introduce the guy who was part of the crew that put this team together. He supervises the various crews that are in the village now working on jobs. We're here to answer any questions, whether you want to talk specific areas or where we need to go next. I will also give a shout out, Mr. Mayor, to your village manager. He has been working tirelessly since this all started. I have never received so many calls on weekends in my life, but he worked tirelessly to get us focused. When the fires were happening, we were basing our priorities on input we got from y'all, right? So we would get calls and hot shots from you guys, and that would allow us to focus our manpower. So thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership during all of this. And we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
And he did answer his phone. I have to give him credit.
No, he did.
He's always great. So I appreciate working with Johnny, and anything we need, he helps us out. So I do appreciate that so much.
Yes, sir.
I want to add a little bit to it. So with us bringing it in-house construction as opposed to outsourcing everything, we decided to bring in a construction crew that will be here permanently. So with that, we'll have crews here, get a little bit of the community giving back to the community. So we're going to look to hire within, so that's been a little project that's come about with all this devastation and with everything, the restore. So just want to let you know we're getting a crew to be here, so we're not having to ship a crew in from Carlsbad or Hobbs, wherever it might be. We're going to have one here that's established full-time.
We're good. Thank you very much. We're excited about the fiber. We really are.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Johnny. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mayor and Council, just as Johnny mentioned, the village staff, we have been working with PNM, with Zia Gas, TDS, all the different utility companies, and they've been also, we also with Otero Electric, and they have been very responsive, and we've been it just makes it so much easier for all of us, and that we work together, be united, and we'll continue to do that on our rebuild, so. And I'll stand for any questions on the manager's report.
Mayor, Ron, a couple of questions. Could you, for the benefit of the public, give a sense of where we are on some of our bridges?
So, Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, tomorrow morning we have a meeting with the Department of Transportation. It's going to be Francisco Sanchez, he's the district engineer, and then his assistant, and also Jonathan Boyle, he's the bridge engineer. We're going to discuss our priority bridges. Adam's going to be also attending that meeting. And we're going to get a plan together, and we want to be able to, and these are going to be repairs to these bridges. They're not going to be full replacements, but at this time we want to get them back open. We're looking at the McDaniels Bridge. We're looking at the one there on North Grindstone, and some other ones, Main Road 2. We need to put some, for the safety of those bridges, put some sort of breakaway culvert type
W panels.
the rails on there. So we're going to have that meeting tomorrow, and we hope we have a very successful meeting. I spoke to Francisco this morning, and I also asked him about the bridge there that we're needing to get done at the Ruidoso Downs, and that's on their list and that's on their list also. So we'll be meeting them, and hopefully, and Adams, his crews are ready to move also to do repairs. So we want to, if Adam has any other information, if he may have stepped out, but we want to make sure, we want to get these roadways. We're working on an easement, a temporary easement that goes through North Loop behind McDaniels Bridge. We're waiting on a resident there. Zach and I and this gentleman have been working on it. His attorney was on vacation. He said the attorney has a document. But these are bridges that we have prioritized, and we want to, and there's others also. And Mayor and I went on a tour, several tours of the bridges, and there's other bridges, Martin Road and Malone and those other areas.
But to be clear, we've had many meetings with DOT.
Yes.
Mr. Boyle's been down. We had a quick plan, and then something happened, the material, and then we've had the Secretary of Transportation, Ricky Cerna, down here. I don't know how many times. We've had the governor over them. We've had many plans. So the repairs are supposed to be going on right now, but I know they were pulled off because of Ski Run Road, Highway 530, that they've got to get open, that we weren't made aware of until we found out it was.
So that's taken priority.
And so they've got them over there now. And then they'll come back to us as soon as they get that road back in operation.
But we will have additional information tomorrow after our meeting, so.
Okay, and is there a way we can publicize that once it's been prioritized and also?
Once we have a plan in place, and that's what Francisco told me this morning, let's get a plan moving forward and get these bridges repaired.
Including
Yes.
timelines.
And we can say that, yes, we'll do it, but we've had these meetings before. And
Yes.
we have bullet points. We show up the next meeting and nothing's been done, and they don't really work for us. You know, that's what they kind of give us the indication.
As the mayor stated, we had some meetings. We went on a Sunday, we toured all the bridges, and we thought it was going to be maybe the same week or the week after, and it didn't happen, so.
And we expected them here this morning.
Another question, Ron, could you explain where we're at with Alto Lake as far as, is it closed?
So, Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, I did reach out to the state forestry office, the Game and Fish, New Mexico Game and Fish, over in Roswell on Friday after I saw that article. What the gentleman said there was, at this point, it is closed, but he said once we open it up, they would follow up and they would pull their closure also. So it's up to Village. I visited was going to visit with Christella today and Randy and talk more about it.
So they didn't coordinate that press release with us?
No, no.
And what do you mean by closed? The forest surrounding, or the wooded areas, the trails?
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Letterman, we have been allowing individuals on the trail. It's more on the water side. And what he told me was due to the duck pond being overfilled with silt and mud and you know, but at this point, once we're ready to reopen that, they'll follow suit, and they'll also sent out a press release stating that it's open again, and that time they could back with fish or whatnot. So there's not a lot of water in there. It looks pretty low.
And there's no fishing in it right now.
No,
Right now, no. Right now, it's closed.
it's all contaminated.
Right.
Okay. And we can't dump it, so we got to treat it, or
Right.
there's plans on that too. We just haven't heard the final destination.
So.
Anything else?
Well, I'd like to ask one. You give me any update that you might know of, but is it possible maybe in the next month or 2 months that we could get somebody that represents the track to give us an update on what type of mitigation they might have to go through, what their plans are in the future that they can best come up with at this time? And because I know the community would be interested in the track, since it is such an integral part of the community and the economy, people depend upon the traffic that the track brings in, just as the mayor was talking about with the jockey club there. And there's many other people that rely on that traffic. So I know it's a question that would be in the minds of many people. And if they get an idea, a sense of what they're looking at for the future on that, then it might help to at least say, okay, this is what we need to do now as far as our future is concerned. So if we could possibly get an update on that.
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Eby, I think we could get some information.
They're doing everything they can do right now. That's why they moved the races to Albuquerque to keep the Triple Crown going. They brought the sale back, but they're waiting just like we are. You've got 2 bridges that are failed. The track's been overrun. The track is inoperable. It's going to be, they're trying to get estimates on how many millions it's going to take to bring the track back. They've got to put in a new bridge. And so they're in the same boat that everybody else is, trying to get answers and find out how it's going to move forward. But I'll get hold of them as soon as they've got some direction.
Well, that's what I'm saying, maybe in a couple of months, because.
Yeah, definitely. Lord knows, hopefully we know about him.
And picking up on that too, I've had questions about the ski operations.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, we're hoping that this roadway, they put in all their resources. Their bridge crews are helping on Highway 530, State Highway 530 to the Ski Run Road. And tomorrow, at least when Francisco's here, I'll sure ask again where they're at on that, so.
And then we've talked to the president, Thora, Dia, and, that was their big concern if they didn't get that done. And we didn't find out until last Monday, a week ago.
That road is awful. Half of it's gone in places.
I didn't realize it was that bad, so.
But there are a lot of rumors out there that the racetrack will not even, I
know. I mean, we got rumors.
But it is important. I agree with Joe that.
Yeah, but they're private business, and as soon as they have a clue, they'll let us, we're working with them, but they're just like us. They don't have a plan just yet because they are working on engineering. They still got to get the debris removal. I can tell you they've spent over $500,000 in just trying to remove silt, and then they can't haul it off anywhere.
Yeah.
So, and so it's just sitting there right now, and I get the same talk this morning from them, you got to do something, and we're doing everything we can, including the county and Ruidoso Downs, to be able to get some of these moving through. We've got Army Corps, we've got NRCS, and then I know Homeland Security's been working on it, John Moon and those guys. DOT's been down here, I know, at least 3 times to stop, and then there was something wrong this morning why they didn't show up, and I still haven't heard a good reason why they're not there to start silt removal. So it's frustrating, very. So, anyway, any other questions?
That's a good.
Okay. We'll move on to mayoral reports and presentations. We want to go to update from donations to the Community Foundation of Lincoln County, Rocker Davis.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Mayor Crawford, honorable councilors, Attorney Cook, Village Manager Sena, thanks for the opportunity to bring everybody up to speed. Riker Davis, I've lived here for 47 years, raised a couple of kids here. Ruidoso's my town. And in 2006, the Community Foundation of Lincoln County came to an existence. with an inaugural board member right here with Councilor Corey. I believe also Councilor Jackson was one of the inaugural members. It was a fledgling organization for a long time, but it grew and grew. I've been involved since about 2010 and worn the chairman's hat for about 10, 12 years now. I'd like to applaud you, Mayor, and Representative Vincent, for not allowing each of us agencies to work in our own bubble. The work that you guys have done in allowing us to get together, communicate with each other, understand better what each agency has to offer, and then using that to empower us to spread that information has been a really valuable resource. It's been great, and I'd like to do that more and more. It's been very valuable for the community and for us. As far as the Community Foundation of Lincoln County goes, as most of you know, we're a shoestring operation. We don't have an office. We don't have a secretary. We don't even have a telephone. All of the money that comes in goes right out the door in the form of grants. And we've had a busy month. It's been a horrible summer for all of us. But I'd like to take the opportunity to give a particular shout out to two of our secret weapons at the foundation is Mary Weaver, many of you know her, and my wife, Cindy Davis. They've been amazing. They put in hundreds of hours. What takes most of the time? Receiving the application? No. Writing a check? No. Vetting those applications. Between those two gals, they could tell you who's sleeping with who's renting, who owns, who has insurance, who doesn't, who's got 5 kids, who's got no kids. I mean, they could tell you. It's been a lot of time. Anyway, here's the information you're really looking for, the update. We've had hundreds of donors from over 44 states. Look at this.
Wow, that's awesome.
44 states have contributed to our little town here in Ruidoso. And that includes Maine, Florida, Alaska, and Hawaii, and most of them in between. So we've had a tremendous outpouring of benevolence and donations to the shelter fund. We appreciate and assure all of our donors that 100% of these gifts are going out as disaster relief grants. We have a 1.5% fee on most of the funds that we look after. The shelter fund is just one of the many funds that we have at the Community Foundation. And the way we make enough money just to print brochures and buy some stamps is that income we get from that 1.5% fee. We've rescinded that fee for the shelter fund. So truly, 100% of the donations coming in are going out as grants. Here are the bullets you're looking for. We have received to date, and these numbers change by the day. We've still got money coming in, we've still got money going out. But up to date, give or take, we've now received over $2 million. Pledges are in place for at least another $375,000. Of these donations, we've received over 487 checks. The average check donation was $4,860. That was the average check donation. That's a pretty high average. We used PayPal for years, and we had 380 PayPal donations by credit card. Then we discovered this wonderful new service called Zeffy. Zeffy begs for a contribution, asks for a donation, but does not charge a fee. And so when we switched to Zeffy, we could tell our potential donors that this was a fee-free transaction as long as they followed the instructions properly. And we processed just about the same, 400 some donations from Zeffy. What I found very interesting was when people realized there was not a fee attached, our average PayPal donation was $236. When we switched to Zeffy, it didn't go up a little bit, it went up significantly to $312. And the numbers were about the same. If we're comparing 20 Zeffy donations to 500 PayPal, that wouldn't be a good comparison, but we had good numbers. So I was intrigued with that figure, and we're very pleased with Zeffy. $100,000 was used right away in June to purchase gift cards that were distributed by our own board members at the multiple evacuation centers. That was boots on the ground, immediate action. These folks were out of town, they were displaced, they were evacuated, and a lot of them needed some help. Most needed some help. And then grants issued so far to our fire and flood victims total $1.564 million. So of that $2 million that we've taken in, we've already granted out 1.564 to over 300 recipients. Fundraisers for the shelter fund will continue in the fall, and further grant awards will continue as more donations are received. Our mission and our obligation is to let every dollar that comes in end up in the hands of the folks who need it the most, the folks that these donations were intended for. 1.53 million has been granted with over 800 checks written. Cindy's hand is about worn out. The first distribution was as soon as June 28th, 11 days since the fire. We are much appreciative of the university, ENMU Ruidoso, because we don't have an office. They've housed us. They still have us in classroom 203, so we've got a place to operate. And we're very appreciative for that. We did our first distributions in person. These folks didn't have a mailbox anymore. We didn't know where to find them. But Cindy in her text information was able to contact everybody, and they knew where to go when it was time to come get a check. And so we distributed our first rounds of grants to the folks in person at the university. Total over 166 fire victims. These are residents of Ruidoso who lost their primary home. That was 166 so far, and that number is still actually going up. We're still discovering some. And 133 flood victims, and that number goes up. We continue to have applications coming in. So this is still an active process. Over 900 applications have been processed. The Shelter Fund has a very specific mission. If you're not aware, let me just repeat that the Shelter Fund is for our year-round residents who live here and work here and have lost their primary home. It is not geared for those who have a second home. It is not geared for the owner of the house who is renting it to somebody else. It's for the person who lived here and worked here. Well, we've got a lot of hurt in this town. You know it better than anybody. And a lot of that hurt isn't necessarily clearly under the guise of the Shelter Fund. So beyond that, we have talked to our partners and discovered other resources thanks to some of the meetings we've been to. And we've got to applaud the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico, the Realtors, and Rotary in particular. There's several other agencies, but these three right now are available to the business community, for which we don't have a bucket. Our business community is hurting. We're all worried about the business community right now. And if the business community is not aware of these three resources, help me spread the word. These folks have not loans, but they have grants available. The Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico, Realtors, and Rotary. All donations matter. We got a donation at McBride. You might remember I held it up during a similar situation at McBride. 5 $1 bills crumpled up in an envelope with a children's handwriting. And that might come followed by a check for $50,000 or $100,000. They all matter. And there's so many people who care about our community and want to help us. But we've got to admit that all those big checks make a bigger difference. And I've got to just take a moment to acknowledge a few people like Johnny Montoya and Windstream, if you're still here, right behind me. And I'm going to read you a quick list. These folks, this isn't 2 or 3 people, these folks have all contributed $10,000 or more. And that includes Rolla Hinkle III, Tom and Damon Lindsay, Elegante Lodge, Bill Fenn and Fenn Foods, Michael and Danette Hannigan, Mark and Paula McClellan, the Foundation for Building, Food for Kids Backpack Program, Charlotte Yates, the Frost Foundation, the Alamogordo Chamber of Commerce, Pat and Kathy Guthrie, Great Plains Trust, Texas Cattle Feeders Association, Joshua and Kristen McDonald, Logan Flaherty, Donna Aldridge, Chris O'Clair, Paso del Norte Community Foundation, Robin Garner, Masonic Charity Foundation of New Mexico, Kinetic by Windstream, that's Johnny's group, Johnny James, Chris and Melody Likens, Leslie Alexander Foundation, Civitas, Daniel Stanger, James Irish III, Claudia Sanchez, Kay Bird, Chris and Gina Carameros, and our very own Flying J Ranch. That's quite a list of $10,000 or more. We're very appreciative to these folks. The last round of funding, we don't anticipate will come until December or January. We're already aware of a fundraiser for these folks that's not going to be coming until November. So we're here, hopefully not 6 days a week as we've been, but we're going to try and scale back, but we're going to continue to do exactly what we've been doing until we get through this thing. It's been a rough summer for our community, but together we're going to help each other, we're going to persevere, and we're going to go forward. I extend a huge thanks to everybody who supported the Shelter Fund, whether you've been steering donations or sending donations or just helping us do what we get done. And I welcome the floor for any questions.
Mayor, question. Riker, can you give us just an idea of what you're actually funding?
We are funding with the Shelter Fund disaster relief money that, because the IRS states in the name of disaster relief, we don't have to issue a 990 when it's over $600. As much money comes in is going out. We thought we were kind of caught up when at the end of June with our fire victims, getting a grip on the handle and thinking, oh, each of these people are going to get a pretty good slice of this pie. Well, then we had our flooding and the numbers more than doubled. Well, now the pie slices got a little bit smaller, but we're doing the best we can do to evaluate each application. Some of the flooding victims in particular created a gray area, and they didn't lose their house, but they were displaced for at least a day or so. Maybe they lost siding, or maybe the carpet got wet, or maybe they had to shovel mud, or whatever the case may be. So we created a separate bucket for those folks, for $1,000 grants, where other folks who lost their home were getting more sizable grants. So we've been just doing the best we can as a group. I don't make this decision myself. We've got a Shelter Fund committee of, 7 or 8? And we discuss these things to come up with a game plan, and then we execute the game plan and go from one stage to the next. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Didn't Jamie Lee Curtis send you some money too? I saw that on Facebook. She did? Yeah. So I know you guys pay for anything from electrical hookups, like you said, rooms, if they needed whatever. So you're not locked in a real close box that you guys do immediate need stuff. So it's
Immediate needs. We've considered the Shelter Fund as the first responder in disaster relief. It was established after the Little Bear Fire in 2012. We plugged along for 10, 11 years with 1 or 2 house fires a year, helped those people nicely, and then suddenly along came McBride. Oh my gosh, we had our hands full with McBride. We thought that was a one-time event. We'd never see anything like it. Well, that ended up just being a dry run for this event, which is 5 or 6 times bigger.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask, is this, like say, the donations, are they tax deductible?
Yes, we are a 501c3.
And then also, what kind of process do you go through as far as evaluating how much an individual would get, or is it just say if they lost their home, everybody gets the same amount?
We put them into categories, and we don't award individuals, we award by address. So the grants are going per household, per address. And we don't just look at the applications. We have driven up and down the roads at Cherokee Village. We have driven up and down the roads in Gavilan and talked to these folks. We, in our vetting process, we've got a team of not just the board members, but we've got about another dozen people that are helping us in the field to put eyes on property so that we make the right decisions. And we're not going to be perfect, but we're trying to be as diligent as possible in making the right decisions to get the money where it really is intended to go.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rocker.
We're
Thank
good.
you, Cindy, everybody. See you guys. Next, we'll do an update at 603 Meacham. Zeke Greer.
Yay, Zeke.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, thank you all for having me. It's been a while since I've sat through one of these meetings. Appreciate you having me. Quick update, 603 Meacham. Most of you know kind of where we're at, but I'll just start at the beginning. We got we got all the roads are cut in to subgrade. The roads are established. We can get in and around the site. We currently have 3 pads completely done with retaining walls around the pads. That's pads C, B, and E. HomeSpot has moved in and started working on those. They do have foundations done in pads C and B, and they are working on pad E as we speak, I think. We should have our next pad, which is pad G, or J, I'm sorry, the one up kind of on top, up above the cabin there. We should have it completed by the end of the week, and HomeSpot can move into that and start working on their foundation there. Our plan is just stay up on top of the hill there once we're done and work on the remaining lots there. There's four more lots up there on the top. We're gonna keep doing the same thing we're doing, getting the pads ready as we're building the retaining walls for those pad locations. And that way, once we're done, we hand it off to HomeSpot, and we don't have to come back to that pad location. Other than we will have to build the parking areas, which get their own little retaining walls. We won't do that until the homes are actually set. And so there will be some more work, but our goal is to get as many pad sites done as possible, so HomeSpot can come in behind us and get their foundations ready, inspections done, and start moving homes on site. As far as their schedule, I'm not sure. I think they were wanting to start moving homes in this week if it remained dry enough to get those homes in. Talking to their foreman, they've got one here in town and another one, I think it's on the road as we speak, is what I heard, so. We're continuing coordination with P&M. P&M's been working on a design for their infrastructure for that project now. Currently, they're on their 3rd engineer since we started the process, so we're kind of just waiting on them. It's not holding anything up for us at this time, but it's just one of those big ticket items that we're keeping an eye on and coordinating, because it is going to come a time when we need to start putting the underground in. We do have utility material in, has been purchased and has arrived, so we do have material for utilities, water and sewer, that as soon as we get, our goal is to get all the pads done and let HomeSpot take over, and then we're going to coordinate with them to get the water and the sewer started, to get the infrastructure in the roads for the water and the sewer, but not block them off to where they can still get in and out. Just kind of coordinate that and make a good effort to not block off the whole site. That will start once all the pads are done. And then, as I mentioned, we'll come back and build the retaining walls for the parking areas once HomeSpot has the home in place. We're continuing to coordinate with Zia Gas as well. They will be running gas into this development. That'll be after our sewer and water's completed. And then I believe I've been working with Michael and Ron, and they've been coordinating with Windstream as well to get them in when the time comes. Basically, that's the gist of where we're at right now. You know, everybody knows the weather we've had, and we've had some days we hadn't been able to work. But I can guarantee it's a priority for us and our subcontractors. I know it's a big ticket item for the village, getting these houses done. And so we're working towards that, and we won't hold up anymore. As long as it's dry out there, we're gonna be there, so. I stand for questions or comments.
Anybody?
How long do we have to wait? I mean, this project was supposed to be done by the end of June, which I totally understand. So how long do we have before we have to pay this money back?
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Letterman, we've submitted for the homes being built, we submitted our grant that we received, so we received full reimbursement.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good to go on it. Just the weather. Okay, anybody else? Thank you, Zeke.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it.
It's nice to see you.
Now we'll go to presentation of new employees. If you're here, I know some of you probably had to go to work. Corey Creighton, certified police officer. He was here. There he is, right there. Stand up. I was looking up. Corey Creighton, certified, and he's retired state police. Yes, sir. And then he was able to come back. What are you granted for, Chief? Did you want to introduce him? Yeah, come on up. Well, there's a new program that was just approved, and it was a return to work. So we were able to finally take advantage of seasoned patrol officers, because so many of them, by the time they were retired, they're still young people, as you can see. And all that, all the ability and knowledge and everything is just sitting at home on the couch.
John Lund, go ahead and stand up also.
Maybe not.
I'll I will introduce them both at the
John
same
Lund in the
time.
back, too.
Yeah, you can't miss him if you turn around. Both of these guys did 20 years with New Mexico law enforcement, and after the bill changed last year to where they could come back and double dip, they both of these fine troops reapplied with the Ruidoso Police Department and went through our background process. They were questionable, but we did hire them. So hopefully we get our money back with them. I was very glad when the state decided to do this because these guys have a lot of investment in them through the years. For 20 years, you know, the training and the expert fields that they were trained up in, and now we're actually getting that return back to us with the village. So congratulations. Thank you guys for coming. So since I have the mic and I'd like to talk, we'll go ahead and introduce Alessa Mize. She is with the Consolidated Dispatch, and she came back to us. She was here for a couple of years, moved away because she thought she wanted to teach, second grade? First grade. And she very quickly changed her mind after a year, and now she is back with the Village Ruidoso. So welcome back.
She would rather be a dispatcher than
Than deal with first grade kids, yes. So congratulations to you all, and we're glad to have you back.
And then our Community Development Director, Alex Koenig. Did I say it right, Koenig? Yes, sir. Koenig. Hello, Alex. We got Alex from the DFW area from, what's the name of the town? Rowlett. Rowlett, that's right. So anyway, is there anything you want to say there, Alex?
This is start of week 3 for me. Glad to be here, even under these unprecedented times. But we are looking forward to doing what we can to increase the economic viability of the community and to do the development as expeditiously and efficiently as we can.
Well, and I appreciate it. He accepted the job, and the very next day the fire broke out. And then, of course, we were busy, and then after about a week, it was like, hey, that guy that we hired, is he still coming on? And they said yes. So we appreciate your backbone and your tenacity because we're going to use it. So we appreciate you very much, Alex. Jamie Paul, Library Assistant. Hello, Jamie. Glad to have you. Where are you from?
Small town called Olney, Texas.
Oh, Olney, no way.
Point is Wichita Falls, Texas.
Yeah.
Grew up there. I kind of sold everything, left everything behind, took a plane to move here a week after the fire. I will say I was terrified, but everyone has been very welcoming. It's been really nice to be here.
Well, good. We're glad to have you. Hopefully you have a long tenure here, and I know Diane's happy about it, that's for sure. He's good. So thank you for coming and being here. Theresa De Leon?
She doesn't start till Wednesday.
Okay, till Wednesday, but she'll be coming in too. So if you don't know how important the library is, like I was ignorant of that fact, and the more you understand what they do and the services they provide, it's amazing what they do over there. And you guys are great. So we always love the music that you have out here in the summer months. But just with the adult literacy program, the children, you offer so much as a respite for so many families that you can come in and bring them. So we appreciate what you guys do a lot. Okay. There's no appointments to board or commissions. We're saying that all of our 16 boards are full. Hallelujah. Thank you very much, everybody in the community. That's what makes us strong, is everybody has buy-in at this village. We'll move on to regular items. Item number 2 is discussion and possible action on memorandum of understanding between the County of Lincoln and the Village of Ruidoso for cost sharing on Natural Resources Conservation Service Grant, NRCS, on a 25% matching requirement for flooding projects related to the South Fork and Salt fires. And who wants to comment on this one?
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I can discuss this one here. We have been working with the county on identifying some projects. We do have a meeting tomorrow morning with NRCS. We're going to identify our priority projects. We're looking at doing trash racks, and there's some other items that Adam was recommending. This memorandum of understanding is the county will be the sponsor of the project, Any projects that we do, we'll bring back to council for approval. At this point, the county has received state funds which were directed for funding match for federal projects. So they have a majority of those funds are waiting on, I think, a couple more $1 million. And so these projects will be fully funded with state and federal dollars.
They've already received funding?
They did receive the first portion of it, Mayor. I think their portion was $12 million.
No, that was for all of us.
Yes.
The 12 million was for all of us,
Correct.
yeah.
And they applied for these matching funds for the 25% match.
Well, I hadn't heard that we received it. It's 12.5, and that's the 25% of 50 million. In each entity, we're responsible for 6.25. And so they did receive the matching funds.
They have received they've received one matching grant, and they were in the process, and I believe they may have received the final $2 million on that for the total match, so.
And do we know where this is going to be?
On Mayor Crawford, Councilor Lutterman, we'll be identifying our projects. We're going to have our own projects, and the county's going to have theirs, but Adam has some that he wants to see, different trash racks and other types of areas.
And we did identify a dozen or so. We had Adam and our staff go through, and it was protecting the watershed.
Absolutely.
All of that. And so we had turned that in a month or so ago, maybe. And
Like
so it was
Two
done.
Rivers and?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll also be working with Laura Doth, and she'll be helping administer these projects, so.
Ron, forgive me, what is a trash rack?
There-
Does it catch the debris?
If you're going down Gavilan and you look right past that, yeah, that wood thing, the one that's over here is a big metal one.
Yes.
That's what that is.
And then we're responsible for cleaning, and our guys already had to go out and pull the debris, and that just keeps it from getting to the culverts and the bridges.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
It loosely along this line, going back to the county, Ron, there had been a plan for them to shut down Gavilan and Warrior. Has that been put on hold in reference to everything that's going on and kind of our limited avenues? Do we know?
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Hooker, I think their design is at 90%, Chrisella, 90% completed. I haven't heard from Jeff Honeycutt, he's the road superintendent. I believe at this time, they're just taking it slow because they know if they redo that culvert, they're gonna have to that whole road's gonna be shut down.
That was the plan. I think that's
Yes.
what was briefed to the schools.
Yes.
Was that they were gonna shut that down completely for X amount of time. Just curious if that's something that might need to be like, hold on a second.
I would think so.
You have to be by a microphone if you got a comment.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor
Costello's
Hooker.
head of our water resources.
That funding there was the McBride funding that we received. We both shared $2.5 million that we're using for that project.
The design was sent over to the county. At that time, it was 60% designed. They decided they wanted to take it over. I don't know where it's at since then. It was sent over to the county manager prior to the one that they have now. So yes, that design did require it to be shut down, but I think some of the flooding since has changed it
Okay.
significantly.
Well, again, I'm just asking for someone that I hang out with every now and then that's concerned about things that might get directed or redirected in that area.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
On that, hopeful that the state would reimburse the 25% match, what's the process in that?
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Eby, those matching funds, once you expend the dollars, you submit the reimbursement to the Department of Finance, and then they'll send you the reimbursement.
Okay, on the 25%?
Yes.
So we just submit it to the
Correct.
Department of Finance?
Yep.
Mayor, I move approval of the acceptance of the memorandum of understanding between the County of Lincoln and the Village of Ruidoso for cost sharing on a natural resources conservation service grant on a 25% matching requirement for flooding projects relating to the South Fork and Salt fires.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Corey,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 3, discussion and possible action on agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and the Humane Society. I know you guys have been waiting politely, thank you. Of the Lincoln County, something happened here. Let me finish reading my deal here. My screen switched on me. With the Humane Society of Lincoln County for the safe and humane control of animals and the protection of the citizens of the Village of Ruidoso in the amount of $95,000. So it's good to see you again.
Same here. Nice to see you.
You
I'm
bet.
Abel Guzman, Executive Director, and nice to see everybody. First off, we want to give thanks to the village for the help that we received during the fire. It was great. We teamed up very well with animal control on rescuing animals that were left behind or that were lost. It was very successful, and our manager here, Maria Schultz, wanted to just give you a couple of updates on what happened during the fire.
Mayor, Councilman, again, my name is Chris Shows. I am the shelter manager. During the fire, we initially took in approximately 80 animals for evacuation. That does not include the 85-ish animals we already had in-house. Those were strays, shelter animals ready for adoption. We did end up initially on Monday, as the salt fire started growing behind us, I did start calling owners back. So 40 of those animals were returned on Monday back to their owners as they were evacuating. We did on Tuesday, or very early Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, send the other 40 animals to Roswell with the help of Bernalillo County, Doña Ana County. They activated in Roswell Fairgrounds. I'm very thankful for all three. Helped us in getting the rest of the animals over to the fairgrounds so that they were, safe and being well taken care of. Bernalillo County and Doña Ana County stayed with those animals until they were returned to Ruidoso a week later. I did have rescues come in and clear the shelter out. They took every shelter animal that we had currently and put them into their rescue. Even though they didn't have room, they made room for us. They showed up the very next morning, Tuesday morning, cleaned us out and took care of those animals and got them all adopted. I would also like to say thank you to the Village of Ruidoso for allowing us to evacuate ourselves to the Horton Gym Tuesday night. We did have a few animals that had come in, from the fire that needed housing, so we were able to go over there and be housed that night until things kind of calmed down. So thank you again for all the help. Would also like to remind people that because of microchipping that we do at the Humane Society, we were able to reunite animals during this fire, during the floods as well. Some of them have come in, displaced or strays. We have been able to find their owners. We've had a couple, they were they were floating down the river that people had rescued.
Oh.
And because they had microchips, we were able to contact that owner that was frantic and let them know that, hey, your animal is safe. We will be having a free microchip clinic coming August 24th, which is a Saturday, between 11 and 3. So come down to the shelter, get your animals chipped, and we'll get you registered, make sure that, all your information is current and up to date.
Excellent.
I'd like to pass it back over to my boss here, Abel, and he'll give you the year-round numbers.
So year-round numbers in 2023-24, we had over 1,000 animals come in. Of those 1,000, 468 were from Ruidoso. During that timeline, we had over 480 animals that were adopted. We had also over 180 that were transferred out to other rescues during that time. And returned to owners, we had over 200 animals that were returned over during that time. This does not include what happened during the fire. Just wanted to give you guys an update on that. We did microchip over 280 animals during that time period as well. So the ordinance has been helping a lot. We've been seeing how animals are going back home quicker. Also, animal control will call us with a number because they have their own scanners and they don't even come to us. They go straight back home. So it's been wonderful. Wonderful.
How bad was your resale shop damaged?
We had damage to our all of our parking lot, our garage and our sorting area where we sort through stuff was damaged. A lot of our stuff that we had that we were going to put out was also damaged. But we're back up and running, and we're just, our hours, our operation are based on the weather. If we get a alert to get on high ground, we have to leave because it will flood. But we're up and running, and we appreciate your guys' help. We really do.
But I know the animal portion, you're even higher.
Yes, that
Yeah,
is
you're
not
up there.
affected.
Yeah, that one's not affected, just your,
Yeah, the shelter is safe. The animals in the shelter and everything, we haven't been affected by the actual flood itself.
yeah. Well, I know you guys have many thanks deserved, that's for sure. And I was very much appreciative of how Roswell and the other communities jumped in. When we were over there visiting people in the shelter, we went by there and they wanted to make sure we went to that area too. So you guys did great working with all your partners and other communities. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of, do you take clothing and that kind of stuff?
We take everything.
They'll even come
Everything
pick
that's in the-
furniture up.
Yes, we'll go pick up furniture.
Okay.
Yes, we'll take.
So you can just bring it and
Yes,
then you
ma'am.
drop it off?
Yes.
Okay. And I just have a new grand puppy poncho that we got from,
Oh, yes,
yeah.
I was there when Pancho got adopted.
yes.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll make the motion to approve the agreement between the Village of Ruidoso and the Humane Society of Lincoln County for the safe and humane control of animals and the protection of the citizens of the Village of Ruidoso in the amount of $95,000.
second.
Any final discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Corey.
Thank you guys very much for everything you do.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You guys do a great job. Item number 4, discussion of possible action on amendments to Resolution 2024-29, a resolution allowing the use of recreational vehicles as temporary housing. Ron, you want to cover that one, or who is it?
Mr. Cook will be handling this one, Mayor.
Hey, go ahead there.
Mayor and council, you guys adopted a resolution at your last meeting that allows for the use of RVs for living purposes for those who were affected in the fires and the floods. And about a week later, an individual called and said that she had previously been homeless and had acquired some property and an RV and asked if she could get a permit under this resolution. She did not lose her home in the fires or the floods. So it raised the question of whether or not this, I got the sense, my feeling was that the spirit of the resolution was to help those who had lost their homes or had been displaced by the fires and the floods. She was adamant that based on the four corners of the resolution and the guidelines contained in it, that she qualified for that. So we wanted to come back to you guys and get a little bit of clarification. Do you want this resolution to allow only those who were affected by the fire and floods to use RVs for living purposes, or do you want it to be available for anybody who
And
wants
again,
to?
this is just for their property that they own.
Right.
And if somebody is letting somebody put RV on there, that doesn't work. And they can't charge, I mean, I couldn't let somebody park their RV at my house and charge them. That's not what we're talking about. It's her property, and she's going to be building on it, is what her plan is. And I know there's a lot of questions in this. And that she wants to park the RV on there while she's building a house. That's what we had intended for the folks that had lost their homes, that they could stay on their property if it's safe and has to be looked at.
And it has to be hooked up to sewer.
No.
Yeah, yes.
You have to have it be
Guidelines require
hooked up
that
to
it be
sewer?
hooked up to sewer.
Yes.
The guidelines also do allow for somebody who doesn't own that property to, it allows for somebody to park on another person's property, park their RV. It doesn't have to be owned by that RV person, to the person who's staying in it, the way it's written now.
But they can't charge for it.
But you cannot charge rent.
I think the letter of it, though, was, again, spirit, whatever you want to call it, was that you've been burnt out. You have this thing, you have this lot that you're going to set temporary housing on while, oh, by the way, you will potentially get built back on. Hence, that's why it's going to have to be tied into sewer. So if it's a vacant lot that you're like, oh, I just bought this and I might build a house or might not, I want to put my RV on there. I don't think I know that's personally, that's not what I believed it to be.
No,
So we got to make sure that hers is hooked up to sewer.
and she's got a plan. She's got everything ready to go. I think that we're talking about economic viability and we want money coming into our village, it's for what, 18 months to 24 months?
24 months.
24 months. It's not like we're going to say, come on in and put it on a property and you can live there. I think that this is very important.
What about, real quick, if I may, what about, I wonder, can the county come back then and reassess that property now? Because you don't have a house on it, but you got a big old fifth wheel, 72 slide, pull out, this, that on there. Can they come back in and say, oh, well, now you got to pay this much?
Mayor, question for Zach. So are we needing to reword this, or?
I think if your intent, okay, so what Counselor Hooker just said is that he believes that the spirit of the resolution was to allow only those affected by the fire and floods. However, the language of it, I believe, is in conflict with that spirit. So if you want to allow anybody, even those who weren't affected by the fire and the floods, to be able to operate under this resolution, I don't think anything needs to be done to it. But if you want to limit it to only those who were affected by the fire and the floods, we need to include language. And I think it's a simple sentence that this resolution is only for those who were affected in the fire and floods.
I'm not going to fall on my sword for that. I'm not going to say, oh, no, it has to be fire. It's like Counselor Lutterman says, if it's somebody that's coming in and it's potentially going to be vibrant, it's going to build back revenue, then okay. But again, I don't want to be the center of, it's got to be this way.
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, when we passed this resolution last month, that was brought up for the fire and the flood victims, and it does say in the preamble that to relieve the grief and economic burden faced by the victims of the fire and floods, to whatever extent is able to do so. And so the question then is, and I did ask, is this for the fire and the flood victims? And the response was yes, that the Community Development Department verified that they were a victim of the fire or flood. So with that, is a preamble part of the ordinance that is enforceable, or is it just language here that would have to be in the body of the ordinance?
If you want to limit it to only those affected by the fire and the floods, I could make an argument in a court that the preamble says this, but I doubt I would win that argument unless we put it into the actual body of the resolution. And hopefully none of this ends up in a courtroom being discussed, but do you know what I mean?
Yes.
No, I think that being in the preamble is not legally sufficient to be binding, to make that binding or to enforce it in such a way.
How many applicants have we received?
Hold on.
Come on down. You know the drill.
Counselor Corey, members of the council. We do have existing 5. Since the order has been put out, we have not had any registrations for new because we did have a couple of questions that have come up by the community that needed clarification.
Okay, and a follow-up question. How do people prove whether or not if we enforce this only for fire and flood victims, how do these people prove?
So we do ask that they give us the property's owner information and then the RV occupant's name. And the RV occupant's name also has to have an affected property address, and that we would use that to correlate with the inspection records by the village on which properties have been damaged.
Okay, thank you.
Do you need to have that RV either registered to the property owner or to the victim?
We accumulate both sets of data, just to ensure that people aren't potentially.
Why does it have to be their trailer?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if my?
Why can't I just loan my trailer to somebody while they're building it back?
Exactly.
No, that's not what I mean. So that's just ensuring that the person in the RV as the occupant
Yes.
has the actual granted permission to be at the location if it's
Yeah.
not their own property.
Yeah, but I thought he was asking that we had to show proof that they owned the RV.
No, not we, they.
No, they. But why do they have to own it? I could just loan mine to somebody while they're building it back and they could live in it.
Well, or it could be very well a letter from the owner. allowing that person.
Yep. So do we have that figured in?
There's nothing in the way it's written now that requires the RV to be owned by the person who's going to be living on it.
Okay.
Well, I think the spirit of this was to assist people getting back.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose. The question I have is that the setbacks are down to 3 feet from the property line. Is there a formula to make if it's a small property that, you know, a 50-foot property wide distance that could go with the footprint of the house being rebuilt?
So we'd have to reassess exactly where that's going to be placed. So this was in habilitation to build and still remain in the same without prohibiting the location. So a typical setback is 20 in the front, 20 from the rear, and 10 feet from each side.
Right.
Depending on the district's location, it could lessen. So the smallest amount of a setback is 5 feet. So the 3 foot would still allow for the different types of structures or accessory uses to be built and not affect the location of the RV.
Okay.
Well, personally, I believe that it is, you know, like Councilman was saying, as far as wanting to get people to stay here, wanting to people to build. I have no problem as far as waiving, as far as a person pulls a building permit and they are going to build, but only for the 2 years, limited that the rest of the victims would be allowed. That might be an incentive for some people to go ahead and start building. So I'd be in favor of that.
Would y'all be interested in reviewing the application we were generating to hand out? Because we did print extra copies if you're interested.
I'll take a look at it afterward.
Yeah, let's have them done because we haven't had a chance to review it before, but we'll make sure that it fits.
So Zach, what you're saying is if we take no action, it will facilitate this particular individual.
Yes. And anybody who does this, the clock starts running, well, the clock started running when you guys passed it last month. So there are 23 months left to build, unless you extend it.
Well, would there be any requirements? Because with this here, as far as the fire and flood victims, they would be able to, let's say, move into the recreational vehicle immediately. But as far as a person who is not a victim, it seems they would need to have some sort of requirement placed upon them to show that they're going to either pull a building permit or in the process before they're approved. Because if they're approved first and then never get a permit, then what are you going to do?
Kick them out after 2 years.
Yeah, but we want to get them, show that they're going to build, that the intent's there. I believe.
Well, there's going to be some lots that are going to be sold. Okay? That people are going to move into, that this 2-year deal. I thought it started from when the individual came in.
That's what my thought was.
Yeah, because
when they
some
signed
of
up.
the stuff hadn't even started, they haven't even started taking stuff off of their
Right.
property, so how are we gonna?
We need to
only
amend that to make sure it's from when the person starts their individual for doing a case by case, because they're not going to have time. Because just getting the lot scraped and debris removed and all that will take 6 months.
The way we have it written is, in the event that the governing body fails to review the impact of this resolution on or before July 28, 2026, this resolution will expire of its own terms on July 29, 2026.
So, Mayor, when Zach was crafting this, a couple of us didn't want it to be evergreen. We wanted there to be a hard and fast review date. And so the fact we're reviewing it doesn't necessarily compel us to repeal it.
Correct. That's a good point. So case by case, they come in, they're in the process, it can be extended. Okay? And we'll have that written in. It'll come to you.
Okay. And I have one more point of clarification. In the order, it does say that they have to be hooked to an existing sewer. So with this particular individual that we're getting clarification on, there are no utilities.
Yeah.
So would she still be provised to inhabit the property?
There's no plumbing on that?
There's nothing.
She's in
Available
the
to her?
process right now. She's got her application.
No, is there a sewer line?
No, there's nothing.
So
There's
she'd be
no
on
electrical,
a
no sewer.
septic system in her house?
Yes.
Or the trailer, and she'll have to, the RV, and have to go pull it somewhere to dump it.
I thought that in there that they could have their holding tank pumped out.
It did, but then
Yes.
Rifle wanted to ensure that we also had licensed plumbers connecting them when a sewer is available.
When is available.
Okay,
If available.
okay, I get it.
When, because some of these areas you can't get
That's
sewer.
true.
No
So that'd just
comment
be
from,
kind of like a gray area in this particular stance. Just
so they'll have to have they'll have to go dump it, and then they'll have to have somebody come by and pick it up. And then the same with the electrical, we got that pass through where P&M will hook up from a pole so they can plug in.
Yes, under a temporary power,
Temporary power.
which would
Just
follow the
like
same
construction,
instances.
right?
Yes.
You're gonna be constructing a temporary pole.
But we need to have some checks on this to make sure that they are following their plans. They're going through the process of these things.
And I do have a spreadsheet developed to where I'm tracking the ones that were previously that have gotten a demolition permit, and are moving into building permit phases. We haven't hit the building permit, it's still in the demolition, so I plan on continuing those efforts to new applications received.
Okay. And have we got, that leads us to another deal on the building applications. If they're in the new floodplain, they're gonna have to be built back 2 foot over the high water mark.
Yes, that is what we're currently developing, as the best practice for an ordinance redevelopment.
Okay,
Because right now it's at or above, but we would now be requiring,
2 foot.
an additional 2 foot above the BFE.
Okay, thinking through this, do you feel like that we've covered the bases now?
Other than, the plumbing fees, would we be charging the $58 plumbing application fee for the inspection and the certification to ensure that the RVs are hooked to the sewer?
What other fees have we waived during this period? I mean, again, we're trying to get them up there where they can get in.
Because there's no actual application fee, but that does constitute a fee for that particular permit.
Well, Mayor and council, and if they're the property owners, say they lost their home during the fire and they're hooking it up, and then we said we would not charge them, so on that part, even if it was temporary, but if they have, they're on septic, and then they'll have to.
I think one of the questions is, are you giving them a CO for this, as temporary? From the application?
On the application? No, but because the licensed plumber has to pull a permit, they have to get inspections, which this would cover the cost of the permit and the 2 inspections needed.
Okay, because I was gonna say, we can, we do the inspections when the sewer's tied in. If we had the application sent to our office for inspection, we could do the inspection on that.
And that's what I kind of thought in conversation last month. that
Yes.
You guys will be doing the inspection.
So, you could, if you want to, it's up to the council what you guys want to do, but as far as the plumbing inspection fee, we're doing the inspections anyway to see if it's tied in, and I'd say, you could waive it if you wanted.
I would, if we could, I would like to be able to waive it.
Okay.
And so if it's not that big of an impact, and we're going to be there anyway.
Because I know Mayor and council adamant, at the original, when we discussed it, was if somebody had it here in a local business, they would tie into, say, a clean out, hook it up, you guys would inspect it and then move forward.
Yes.
Plumbed into that, so.
Thank you. So we don't have to take,
Well, we can make a motion, just let it die. Is that what the way you'd say to do it, or?
Just no action.
Okay. Is that where we're good? No action? Okay.
Works for me.
All right, thank you very much. I know we can make the most simple things seem so complicated.
Trying to do the
Well, we were trying to make it easy, and then it was, what about this? Sorry about that. Item number 5, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2024-37, a resolution of support and commitment to the funding of the 2024 New Mexico Department of Transportation MDOT Cooperative Co-op Funding Program in the amount of $334,365.00.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, this application was submitted back in March, or February, was due in March. Josh Long and his staff and Adam, and this is for the cooperative funding. This is the Flume, Canyon Drive, Wimberley Road, Black Forest Road that we've been having discussions, so we did receive this. We actually were going to receive less, that's why this is so late in the year to receive that, but they had one of the entities that just dropped out, but their funding, they didn't want to, at this time, they were not ready for funding, so we're funded at the full amount that we requested.
Right. Great. I'll make a motion to approve adoption of Resolution 2024-37, a resolution of support and commitment to the funding of the 2024-2025 New Mexico Department of Transportation Cooperative Funding Program in the amount of $334,365.00.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Thank you very much. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2024-38, a resolution approving a First Amendment to the New Mexico Department of Transportation, MDOT, Local Government Road Fund Cooperative Agreement L200597.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, this is a time extension that I've submitted to the Department of Transportation for 1 year. This cooperative project is over by Innsbrook and all the adjoining roadways. This project was scheduled to be, would expire this December 31st. I've asked for an additional year on this, so this is the process of sending it just to be safe that we don't lose this funding, so.
Because we're tearing up that with the detour.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go right ahead, Susan. Go right ahead, Hooker.
Somebody
I move that we accept Resolution 2020, or adopt Resolution 2024-38, a resolution approving a First Amendment to New Mexico Department of Transportation Local Government Road Fund Cooperative Agreement L200597.
Second.
discussion. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Okay, we have closed session items today. Could I get a motion to move into closed
Mayor, I
session?
move we go into closed session for discussion of limited personnel matters, discussion subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation in which the Village of Ruidoso is or may become a participant, and discussion of the purchase, acquisition, and/or disposal of real property and/or water rights by the Village of Ruidoso. Any action taken as a result of the closed session will be brought back into open session.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please, ma'am.
Counselor Corey?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Who do you need?
I'm going to need Adams and Chief Chavez.
Okay, thank you. We will adjourn to the executive room.